I gifted my son and his wife a house. Then they excluded me from family trips. So I took it all back and exposed my daughter in law at the reunion. At 58 years old, I had been widowed for more than a decade. A loss that had left me devastated but determined to build a beautiful life for my only son, Michael. I had raised him entirely on my own, pouring every single ounce of my love, energy, and sacrifice into giving him the best possible future. I had worked endless double shifts as a nurse in busy hospitals, skipping vacations I dreamed of, holidays with friends, and even basic comforts like new clothes or dinners out, just to make sure he never went without the things he needed. Michael grew up to be the kindest, most gentle man I could have ever hoped for. He became a successful engineer, steady and reliable. And when he married Sarah 5 years ago, my heart overflowed with pure, unfiltered joy. Sarah was beautiful and ambitious, with a sharp mind and a warm smile that seemed so perfect for him. She came from a well-off family, and together they looked like the couple that everyone secretly dreamed of becoming: happy, successful, and deeply in love. When they announced they were expecting their first child, I cried tears of pure, overwhelming happiness that streamed down my face for days. A grandchild. Finally, my small family would grow and I would have someone new to pour my love into. But house hunting soon turned into a nightmare for them, as prices in our area had skyrocketed dramatically, and nothing they looked at seemed quite right for a growing family with a baby on the way. One evening, Michael called me with a slight hesitation in his voice that I could hear even over the phone. "Mom," he said softly, almost apologetically. "Sarah and I found our absolute dream home, but it's a little out of reach financially right now." My heart ached deeply for them in that moment. I did not hesitate for even a second because they were my everything. I had saved diligently over the years, every extra shift at the hospital, every skipped luxury or unnecessary expense, building a nest egg of nearly $600,000 that I had always intended for something meaningful. I transferred it all to them without a single regret. I bought the house outright for them. No mortgage payments hanging over their heads. No burden of debt. Just pure freedom for my son and his growing family to start this new chapter without worry. I threw myself completely into making the house perfect for them, spending weeks helping them decorate every room with care and excitement. I chose soft, neutral paints for the walls that would grow with the family. I assembled the nursery furniture with my own hands, carefully painting tiny, whimsical stars on the ceiling to sparkle above the crib. I even sewed the curtains myself, stitching love and hope into every single seam, with threads I picked out personally. At the housewarming party, surrounded by friends and family who toasted to their future, I stood back quietly and watched them smile with genuine happiness. Sarah hugged me so tightly that I could feel her tears on my shoulder, and she whispered through her emotion, "Carol, you are the best mother-in-law anyone could ever ask for. We will always have a room ready for you here. Come stay anytime you want, whenever you need." Michael wrapped his strong arms around both of us in that moment. "Mom, you're truly amazing," he said, his voice thick with emotion and gratitude that made my heart swell. They promised me the world in return, painting beautiful pictures of our future together. Family vacations were at the top of the list. Disneyland when the baby was old enough to remember the magic. Cruises to celebrate milestones and create lasting memories. I funded extras without a second thought because seeing them happy was my greatest joy. A brand new car for Sarah to make motherhood easier and safer. beautiful renovation to open up the kitchen into a warm gathering space for holidays. "Mom, you're incredible," Michael would say every time I surprised them with something new. Sarah's parents contributed almost nothing to any of it. They were retired and always claimed a tight budget whenever money came up. But I never minded even a little. Family helps family. That was my motto, etched into my soul from years of sacrifice. I gave everything with an open heart and no expectations, believing wholeheartedly that I was building a legacy of love that would bind us forever. Yet, even in those joyful, golden moments filled with laughter and hugs, subtle changes began to creep in slowly, almost imperceptibly at first. Sarah started spending more and more time with her own parents, organizing little get togethers that somehow never included me. She would mention casually blending our lifestyles in conversations as if our worlds were merging seamlessly. I noticed small things that nagged at the edges of my happiness, comments about how certain events were just for the younger generation, or hints that my presence might overwhelm the kids. But I brushed them off completely as nothing more than wedding and baby stress. After all, they needed me desperately. They loved me deeply. Or so I thought with all my heart, clinging to that belief like a lifeline. The first real stab of hurt came like a knife twisting slowly and deliberately in my chest, leaving me breathless and wounded. Sarah announced a luxury cruise to the Caribbean for Michael's 35th birthday with so much excitement in her voice and posts. She shared beautiful photos of the ship on social media with captions gushing about family vacation with the best in-laws. My heart soared with anticipation when I saw them. I assumed I was included, of course, because how could I not be? I started shopping immediately and eagerly. New clothes that flattered my figure after years of neglect. A swimsuit I hadn't worn in decades. Even little gifts and toys for the grandkids to enjoy on board the ship. Then Michael's text arrived out of nowhere, cold and distant in a way that made my stomach drop. "Mom, Sarah wants this trip to be just immediate family. Me, her, the kids, and her parents. The cabin space is limited on the ship. We hope you understand completely. We'll plan something special soon, just us, I promise." Immediate family? The words echoed painfully in my mind, crushing me with their implication. I had paid for the house they lived in every single day, the one that sheltered them and the grandkids. I had babysat endlessly so they could have romantic date nights and restful evenings. I had funded nearly everything they enjoyed without ever asking for thanks. And now, suddenly, I was not immediate enough to join them? The pain was raw and unrelenting, a deep ache in my chest that refused to fade no matter how I tried to rationalize it. I called Michael right away, my voice trembling with emotion I could barely contain. "Son, I feel so left out and hurt. I've given everything for you both." He sighed heavily on the other end of the line as if my pain was an inconvenience. "Mom, Sarah's parents are getting older every day. They don't have much time left for these big, extravagant trips. And honestly, the house, it's in our names now, legally. We have to prioritize our little unit." Prioritize? Over his own mother who had sacrificed her entire life without complaint, who had been there for every milestone and hardship. Another trip was planned soon after, a luxurious ski lodge getaway for the holidays, complete with fireplaces and hot cocoa by the slopes. Again, the same hurtful excuse came without apology. Her side only, this time to make memories with the grandparents. Photos flooded social media almost immediately. Sarah's parents beaming proudly with the grandkids bundled in snowsuits, cozy fireside moments filled with laughter and warmth. I sat alone in my small apartment, staring at the glowing screen through tears that streamed endlessly down my face. How could they exclude me so callously after everything I had given them? Suspicion turned gradually to careful investigation as the hurt compounded. I checked my bank accounts more carefully than ever before and discovered small, unauthorized transfers. Hundreds at first, then thousands, moving quietly to Sarah's personal account. They were labeled innocently as house maintenance or family gifts, but they added up to a shocking amount. My blood ran cold with realization. I had given them access years ago for genuine emergencies. Now it felt like deliberate theft, hidden behind smiles. The exclusion became a cruel repeating pattern that chipped away at my soul. Birthday dinners were suddenly just for the kids and grandparents on her side. Weekend getaways happened without a single invitation extended my way. Sarah's smiles grew forced and strained when I visited. Her mother began boasting openly and proudly about our family traditions, as if I no longer belonged in the picture at all, as if my decades of sacrifice had been erased. The heartbreak was unbearable and all-consuming. Nights became endless torment, with me sobbing uncontrollably into pillows, questioning every sacrifice I had ever made. Had my love meant nothing to them? Was I just a wallet all along, convenient until no longer needed? The pain consumed me completely and without mercy. It was a deep, aching void in my soul that no amount of tears could ever hope to fill. I would sit for hours on end staring at old photos, Michael as a little boy, clinging desperately to me after his father's sudden death, me working late nights at the hospital to pay for his braces, his college tuition, his beautiful wedding. I had been both mother and father to him. I had given up my own dreams entirely, my youth, my comfort, all for him without a single regret until now. And now this unbearable betrayal? The realization hit me like a thunderbolt out of a clear sky. They never truly saw me as family in the way I deserved. I was merely a resource to them, a means to an end that served their comfort. Sarah's influence had poisoned everything we had built. Her parents, with their quiet but unmistakable superiority, had convinced her that I was an embarrassment, an older widow who didn't quite fit their polished high society image. Friends noticed my withdrawal from life and gatherings. My closest confidant, Barbara, pulled me aside one day with concern etched on her face. "Carol, they're taking terrible advantage of you in the worst way," she said firmly and without sugarcoating. "You've spoiled them rotten for years, and now they're pushing you out completely. This isn't right, and you don't deserve it." Her words ignited something deep within me that had been smoldering. I began digging deeper than ever before. Old emails, shared cloud drives that Michael had forgotten about. And there, hidden in a folder he thought was private and secure, I found the devastating truth. Conversations between Sarah and her mother laid bare their cold intentions. "We need to distance Carol gradually so it doesn't seem abrupt. She's too clingy and too involved in our daily lives. Once we have full control of the finances and documents, we can limit her visits without drama. The house is ours now permanently, thanks to her endless generosity. Elderly widows can be so vulnerable and easy to manage." Vulnerable. That's exactly how they saw me. Not as a loving mother who had given everything, but as prey to be manipulated. The betrayal cut deeper than any knife ever could, twisting with every breath. Rage mixed inextricably with profound, soul-crushing grief. How could my own son allow this to happen? How could he stand by silently while his wife plotted to erase me from their lives? I felt utterly alone in the world, discarded like yesterday's trash after a lifetime of selfless giving. But beneath the devastation that threatened to drown me, a fire began to burn brightly. They had taken so much from me without remorse. I would not let them keep it without a fight. The heartbreak did not break me forever as much as it tried. It forged me into something stronger and more resilient than I had ever been before. One morning, waking from yet another sleepless night filled with tears, I looked in the mirror and made a solemn vow to myself. I would fight back with everything I had. I would not fade quietly into the background they had so carefully planned for me. I contacted Tom immediately, an old friend who was a trusted and highly skilled attorney. Over coffee in a quiet cafe, with tears streaming down my face uncontrollably, I showed him all the evidence I had gathered so far. "Can I reverse the house gift somehow?" I asked, my voice shaking with a mix of fear and determination. His face hardened with resolve as he reviewed the documents. "With solid proof of undue influence and outright fraud? Absolutely we can," he replied confidently. "Gifts can be clawed back under certain circumstances, and this looks like a clear case." I hired a private investigator next, a discreet and thorough professional recommended personally by Tom. What he uncovered over the following weeks shattered any remaining illusions I clung to desperately. Sarah had been forging small withdrawals for months on end, systematically building toward larger ones without raising alarms. Emails showed her mother coaching her every step. Keep her happy with occasional visits and compliments, but always control the narrative behind the scenes. There were even plans to update legal documents further, perhaps pursuing guardianship if I became difficult or questioned too much. The investigator gathered ironclad proof that left no room for doubt. Forged signatures on transfer forms, manipulative messages detailing their scheme, financial trails leading straight to Sarah's personal spending on luxuries and exclusive trips with her parents. Each revelation fueled my pain intensely, but also my growing determination. The woman I had welcomed warmly as a daughter had been plotting against me coldly all along. My son, my precious boy, whom I had raised with so much love, had chosen silence and complicity over protecting his mother. I froze related accounts quietly and efficiently through the bank to prevent further damage. Vendors for their upcoming family-only events received discreet notices of payment holds pending review. Sarah panicked almost immediately, calling repeatedly and leaving voicemails demanding more help for baby expenses and home upgrades that she claimed were urgent. I let the phone ring endlessly, my heart pounding with a complex mix of sorrow for what we had lost and righteous anger for what they had stolen. The annual family reunion approached steadily, a big, joyful event at a beautiful lakeside resort where everyone was invited, including Sarah's side of the family. They assumed confidently that I would attend as always, playing the doting and generous grandma without question. They had no idea whatsoever what was truly coming for them. Revenge was not about cruelty in my mind. It was about justice that had been long overdue and desperately needed. A private confrontation would only allow them to lie shamelessly, manipulate the narrative, and perhaps turn Michael even further against me with their twisted version of events. No, that would never work. This required witnesses, many of them. The entire family needed to see their true colors exposed in the light of day. The reunion tradition included an evening slideshow where everyone shared memories, photos, and heartfelt toasts under the stars. I volunteered early and enthusiastically. I have a special video tribute about family generosity and love that I've been working on. I'd be truly honored to present it to everyone. Sarah agreed eagerly and without suspicion, thinking it was a glowing tribute to her perfect life and family. Behind the scenes, I prepared everything meticulously and with careful precision. My tribute video began sweetly and innocently. Old family photos of happier times, my warm narration speaking softly about sacrifice and the unbreakable bonds of love. Then came the calculated shift, bank statements scrolling slowly across the screen, emails revealing their plots, forged documents presented clearly. Tom reviewed every frame to ensure it was completely legal and protected from any backlash. Doubt crept in during the nights before the reunion. Could I really humiliate them publicly in front of everyone we loved? But remembering their cold and calculated exclusion, the outright theft of my hard earned savings, the complete erasure of my role as mother and grandmother, I steeled myself with renewed resolve. This was not just for me. This was for every overlooked and taken for granted parent who had given everything only to be discarded. This was for justice. The reunion hall buzzed with genuine warmth and excitement, laughter echoing off the walls, heartfelt hugs exchanged among relatives who hadn't seen each other in months, the joyful clinking of glasses filled with celebration. Over 30 relatives gathered in that beautiful space, with kids running wild through the rooms, and old stories retold with animated gestures and fond smiles. I arrived smiling brightly despite the storm inside me, carrying thoughtful gifts for the grandkids, and offering to help set up decorations and food. Sarah greeted me politely, but with a wariness in her eyes that she couldn't quite hide. Her parents remained smug as ever, toasting loudly to family unity as if their words weren't laced with hypocrisy. Evening came gently with the sun setting over the lake. Slideshow time arrived as tradition demanded. I took the microphone with steady hands. Family means everything to me. Tonight I have a special video about generosity and the truth that binds us. The screens lit up brightly. The sweet beginning played first. Cherished childhood photos of Michael, my warm narration speaking softly about the sacrifices parents make and the unbreakable bonds of love that hold families together. Then darkness fell abruptly across the room. Proof appeared methodically. Payments for the house with my name prominently displayed. My savings depleted to nothing. Emails revealing Sarah's cold plots to distance me forever. Forged transfers exposed in detail. My narration continued, my voice steady but laced with deep emotion. I gave my life savings willingly for their home. I funded their dreams without hesitation. Yet I was excluded repeatedly. Money stolen secretly, treated as nothing more than a burden. Gasps echoed loudly throughout the hall. Sarah turned pale as a ghost and bolted up from her seat. Turn this off right now, it's all lies. Michael sat frozen in place, his face ashen with shock and dawning horror. Sarah's mother screamed shrilly, "How dare you spread these vicious lies?" The final slides appeared relentlessly, legal filings detailing the house title reversing. Fraud officially reported to authorities. Chaos erupted completely and without warning. Relatives turned horrified faces towards Sarah, voices rising in disbelief. You used her savings? After everything she gave you without asking for anything? Sarah began sobbing hysterically and uncontrollably. Her parents stood exposed as enablers and manipulators, their smug facades crumbling. I stood tall amid the storm raging around me. You took everything from me without remorse. Now face the consequences you so richly deserve. The reunion shattered into pieces that night, their carefully built facade in complete ruins. The consequences of that explosive night at the reunion crashed down on Sarah and Michael with unrelenting force, changing their lives forever in ways they could never have anticipated or prepared for emotionally or financially. The legal action unfolded swiftly and mercilessly, as my attorney Tom had prepared every detail meticulously well in advance to ensure there would be no escape. Within mere days of the public exposure, the courts issued a firm order to reverse the house title transfer entirely, ruling unequivocally that clear and overwhelming evidence of undue influence and outright fraud had completely invalidated the original gift from the very beginning. The beautiful home I had bought with my hard earned life savings was no longer theirs to claim or enjoy. It went on the market almost immediately through a trusted realtor, and when it sold at a strong and favorable market value, every single penny of the proceeds returned directly to me without contest, along with substantial additional damages that the judge awarded specifically for the profound emotional distress and calculated financial manipulation I had endured over the years. Sarah and Michael received formal eviction notices while the sale was pending, forcing them to scramble desperately for temporary housing amid the intense humiliation of having to explain to neighbors, friends, and even acquaintances why they were suddenly and unexpectedly moving out of their so called dream home that everyone had envied. The unauthorized funds that Sarah had siphoned secretly from my accounts over the months and years were traced meticulously and repaid in full without exception, but not without steep penalties and rapidly accumulating interest that left them deeply and inescapably in debt for a very long time. The judge's ruling was scathing and detailed in its condemnation, highlighting the calculated and premeditated nature of their deception and ensuring that the financial blow was as devastating and lasting as the emotional one had been for me throughout the entire ordeal. The family fallout was immediate, profound, and utterly irreversible. As relatives who had witnessed the video's damning revelations firsthand turned their backs completely and without hesitation on Sarah and her parents. Invitations to future gatherings were revoked permanently and without apology. Phone numbers were blocked en masse, and social media connections severed one by one to protect the family's peace. Sarah's parents, once smug and superior in their social standing, found themselves ostracized from circles they had long dominated and enjoyed, their reputation for elitism now permanently tainted by the undeniable proof of manipulation, greed, and outright cruelty that had been laid bare for all to see. Michael, my own son whose betrayal hurt the deepest, came to me in tears multiple times in the weeks that followed, begging desperately for forgiveness and claiming repeatedly that he had been blind to the full extent of Sarah's actions and manipulations. His pleas broke my heart all over again in ways I cannot fully describe. But the damage inflicted was far too deep and lasting for any easy repair or quick forgiveness. I allowed limited and carefully supervised contact solely for the sake of the grandkids, whom I adored beyond words and refused to punish for their parents' sins. But our mother-son relationship would never return to what it once was, no matter how much I wished otherwise in my quieter moments. Sarah's once glittering reputation crumbled like a house of cards caught in a storm, as whispers of the truth spread rapidly through mutual friends, colleagues, and even her professional network. Family connections ensuring that the story reached far and wide without mercy. She lost valuable opportunities she had worked hard for, faced judgmental stares in public and watched her carefully curated social world collapse entirely around her without warning. Their marriage, already strained to the breaking point by the public exposure and mounting pressures, buckled completely under the immense weight of mutual blame, deep-seated resentment, and the sudden onset of severe financial ruin that stripped away every comfort they had taken for granted. They downsized dramatically and without choice to a small, cramped apartment, far from the luxury and space they had grown so accustomed to enjoying. Their dreams of an easy and privileged life shattered beyond any hope of recognition or repair. Through it all, I watched from a careful distance, not with cruel or vengeful satisfaction, but with a profound and quiet sense of justice finally served after years of silent suffering. They had taken so much from me without a shred of remorse or gratitude, but now they faced the cold and unforgiving reality of their own choices, alone together, fully accountable, and forever changed by the consequences they could no longer escape. Now, at 65 years old, I am truly thriving for the first time in years, living a life that is entirely my own and filled with genuine, well-earned joy that warms me from the inside out. My cozy condo is a true sanctuary of light and warmth, decorated exactly as I have always wanted it, with dedicated spaces for the hobbies I had long set aside during years of sacrifice. I travel frequently and freely to places I had only dreamed of visiting in the past. European cruises along scenic rivers, relaxing weeks on tropical beaches with soft sand and clear waters, serene mountain retreats where I can hike and reflect. Experiences I fund comfortably with my rebuilt savings and an utterly clear conscience that brings me immense peace. The grandkids visit regularly and enthusiastically, filling my home with their infectious laughter and pure love, and I cherish every single moment we share without the dark shadow of manipulation hanging over us any longer. We have established healthy and loving boundaries that protect us all from past hurts, ensuring our time together is always pure, joyful, and untainted by negativity. Michael and Sarah continue to struggle mightily in the aftermath of their devastating actions, facing ongoing financial hardships that serve as constant reminders, along with the lasting emotional consequences of broken trust that may never fully heal. Limited attempts at reconciliation have occurred slowly over the years, with apologies that feel sincere on the surface, but can never fully erase the profound pain they caused me so deeply. Trust, once shattered so completely, remains forever changed and guarded, no matter the passage of time. I have learned profound and life-changing lessons through this painful ordeal. Generosity must always come with clear limits and self-respect, and love is not an endless well of self-sacrifice, but a mutual exchange built on genuine respect and appreciation from both sides. To every parent who has been used without mercy, excluded without reason, or discarded without care by those they loved most, your worth is infinite and unchanging no matter what they made you feel. Their ingratitude reflects only on their character, never on your value as a person or parent. Reclaim your power without apology or hesitation. Set firm boundaries that honor all the sacrifices you have made. Live fully and freely without guilt, embracing the peace that comes naturally from justice finally served. The best revenge is not the destruction of others, but a life reclaimed wholeheartedly, peaceful, joyful, and entirely yours to enjoy. You gave enough for a lifetime without reciprocation. Now give that boundless love to yourself without holding back. Strength blooms brightest and most beautifully from the ashes of betrayal. You deserve it all and more.